Hi, you're listening to One Step Wealthier podcast, where I help you to get a little bit better every day and to achieve your financial goals. Follow along with me, and every week we will talk about all things personal development and personal finance. Together, we can get one step wealthier. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about how I have started investing. So when I was growing up and also a little bit later in life, I thought that investing was something for ultra rich people. I saw that as something unachievable for me, something unattainable. I was from a very working class background and I really didn't know about anybody who was investing or who would be remotely successful in any kind of investment. I thought that investing also required a lot of knowledge in finance. I was trying to read some financial news, but they sounded really complicated. And I was trying to interpret some charts, but also I couldn't really get to terms with it. And I thought that investing would require constantly checking the numbers. And also, if the market crashed, you could really lose it all. And this representation of the stock market, this very negative representation, I think it comes from the news, from the media, how the media represents that. So every time that there is a market crash, for example, the one in 2008 or the one during the 2020 pandemic, was represented really negatively. And I think that what really affects also our knowledge and creates a fear in us that stops us from investing. So during the COVID pandemic, I had lots of time to spare. Before the pandemic, I was working for a project in Nepal, but my project in Nepal stopped its operations and I had to come back to Europe and I was working from home. And because of that, I had a lot of time to spare and I was going on a lot of walks and runs. And during those walks and during those runs, I started to learn about investing. I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to audiobooks. And also there is an app called Blinkist, which summarizes a lot of nonfiction books. So I downloaded this app and I just listened literally to every summary of the financial book ever written that is on Blinkist. And I realized that there is a similar pattern that all those investment books followed. And then I realized after a few months of that content and reading diverse things, watching YouTube videos, that investing was not all that complicated, that you can simply set it for a long time and forget it, to not worry about crashes, because I actually realized that I didn't know about that you do not lose money during crashes if you don't sell. So if you don't really panic during those little market crashes that do happen, and if you have your investments put, if you stay put, you should not lose any money because you're not selling anything. And I've also realized the power of the compound interest. So the compound interest is when your interest is generating you more and more money, and interest is generating more interest. So it's just basically like a snowball rolling down the mountain and growing bigger and bigger. So what do I invest in? So I mainly invest in the stock market. I also have some small percentages in peer-to-peer lending platforms, in crowdfunding, some metals as well, and also some crypto. But in this episode, I just want to talk a little bit more about the stock market. So the way I invest in the stock market, because I think that the stock market, it is a great way to make some money. So I mainly invest in ETFs, which are based on market indexes. So don't worry if that sounds a little bit foreign to you. I will explain. So what is an ETF? An ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund, and it is sort of like a basket of stocks or bonds that gives you exposure to specific markets. So let's say that instead of investing on individual stocks, for example, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, Tesla, etc., you could just buy an ETF. So you can just buy, for example, the S&P 500 ETF, which has the 500 most profitable companies in the US. And there are many different ETFs. So there are ethical ETFs, commodity ETFs, index-based ETFs, etc. And I think the most important part about ETFs and what I really, really like is the diversification. So the key to investment is to diversify, is not to put all your eggs in one basket, because if that basket breaks, then, well, you lose all your money. So the key is just to put your money in different baskets. And I think an ETF is a great way to diversify because let's say if Amazon, that is part of the S&P 500 ETF, but goes bankrupt, then the rest of the companies would actually lift that fund and Amazon would actually no longer be part of that fund, let's say. So it is a great way to give yourself exposure to really important companies and not have to really check the numbers because the index does it for you. And why should you invest? So firstly, to beat the inflation. The inflation is when your money loses value year after year. It is usually 2 to 3%, but last year we've seen very high inflation numbers. And you probably have noticed that all the prices have risen. And I think that during inflation, it is riskier not to invest because if you let your money sit in your bank account, it loses value year after year, sometimes month after month. So investing would make your money grow beyond inflation. Secondly, to buy time for the future you. So I think we would all love to retire earlier, maybe dedicate more time to your hobbies. Even if you absolutely adore your job, probably you would want more flexibility to spend more time with your family, doing something that you really, really love in your free time. Or maybe you would like to work in a job that you like much more than your current job, but pays less, maybe volunteer full time. So when you're investing, you're actually buying time. And at some point, you will see that you will have more freedom. And how can you start investing? So you can really start with little. You don't need thousands and thousands of dollars, pounds, or euros to invest. You can really start with 50 pounds, dollars, or euros every month or every few months. Most important thing is consistency, just to remain consistent. And also, the sooner you start, the better. Remember compound interest? So the sooner you'll start, the more your money will grow. And also, one thing that I wanted to add is that the absolutely best investment that you can make is in yourself, in your own learning. So if you are not really sure in what to invest in, you could read books, you could just inform yourself how to start investing or just keep listening to this podcast. I hope that my reflections have motivated you to start investing. Remember, the best time to invest was yesterday, and the second best is today. And please note that this is not individual financial advice. Please speak to your financial advisor regarding your individual financial needs. You have just invested in your personal development by listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here and for helping yourself to become one step wealthier. Do not forget to subscribe to access to new content every week and to better yourself. I hope that you have a wonderful day.